Hey everybody, these tape tips were originally recorded for YouTube, so occasionally an episode may have a few moments that are better suited for watching rather than just listening. The link to the YouTube video is in the show notes, and if you're on Spotify, you can choose to watch the video right there. Thanks. Years ago, I was working on what would turn out to be my longest ever project, Swingline, the first 13D I'd ever tried, at a steep, pocketed crag called the Dark Side in the Red River Gorge. I'd spent parts of several seasons on it, never at the full expense of climbing other things, but as a weekend warrior, it had certainly taken up a lot of my time outside. My fitness was at an all-time high. I was at the point that I could climb 5 times in a single session to the final hard move before falling off, but I couldn't break through. I had done all of the obvious links, and the only thing left to do was send. It just wasn't happening. What I want to talk about here is the breakthrough that I had, one that's come up time and time again for me, for my clients, for guests of the podcast, and the simple way that you can avoid getting stuck at unnecessary plateaus in the first place. Let's get into it. Now, what this ultimately comes down to is asking yourself an important question, one that will usually lead to an evaluation of your situation, and then to answer honestly and act on that answer. But we aren't there quite yet. See, on Swingline, I wasn't being honest. I was telling myself a story. And you've heard this story. It goes like this. I have gotten this close to doing this thing, and even though it's been months since I last tried it, I'm actually stronger, so I'll just pick up where I left off. More likely, I'll just do it quickly. But that story's often false, and we all know it. So finally, I asked myself the question. And the answer to that question cut through the noise, this false story, and it led me to interrogate, realistically, my current situation. I was definitely stronger than when I'd started on it. I was definitely better than when I'd started on it. And I had let go of the pressure that Swingline would be my first 13D because I'd already done another. But that still wasn't enough. And I see this often. The strength numbers go up. You've climbed harder things. You know you're better, but you still can't do that thing. And for me, getting honest, I was no longer current with Swingline. It had been a couple of seasons since I had low pointed from below the obvious rest. I was just banging my head against it, repeating the same thing over and over. Warm up on a 12B, then twice on a nearby 13A, then 3 to 5 times up to the same big move to the funnel-shaped pocket where I'd touch it and fall off. Over and over and over. What I needed to do was refresh and rebuild some parts of that relationship. So I let go of the idea that I might get lucky. And over the course of a couple of sessions, I moved my current low point down to below the hard pocket sequence leading to the rest. And when I only barely scraped through that, I realized how hard the crux actually felt. And it had been a long time since I explored beta there, believing that I'd found my way. But now, having asked myself the right question, it was a no-brainer to have another look at that crux sequence. I remembered watching a friend send the route in just a handful of tries a year or so earlier, and he had used beta for the crux that I had quickly rejected, believing I was too short to replicate it. I tried it didn't work, I moved on. But while reevaluating, I figured it was worth another try, and with the better strength and better tension that I'd built in the gym, I was able to do the crux first try with that method. It felt 2 V grades easier than the method I'd been using. And with that beta change, the new low point, and a reevaluation, I sent next try. See, I'm a creature of habit. I love routine to a fault. I suspect a lot of people who are systematically training to improve at climbing fall into the same camp. And I will run a routine all the way into the ground if I'm not careful. So something I've learned is that I have to constantly reevaluate in order to be sure that my routine is still serving me and moving me toward whatever my goals are. I have to regularly ask myself this important question. Are you the same you? Asking this question has allowed me to shift gears, commit to new things, and most important, get shit done in business, in life, and in climbing. I often see climbers get stuck on a project or stuck believing they're supposed to go some direction that they just aren't motivated on anymore, stuck in a training plan that they wrote months ago. And the seasons pass by and they're still there, spinning their wheels over and over and over, never asking, are you the same you? On Swingline, it was a different me entirely who had worked out the beta and done those links. The current me needed to do it too. Because the fact is, we change, we grow, we atrophy, we improve, and sometimes we get worse. We're never the same person from one season to the next, and we have to be honest about all of it. My first book, The Hard Truth, is bookended by essays about my experience climbing Transworld Depravity, my first 14A. On the final cool day of a spring season, I battled through 50 feet of dripping wet 13A exit climbing, only to fall at the final move to the clipping jug. And for months, I wasn't sure I would go back. If it was dry, I would have done it. I knew it. Everyone at the crag, collectively groaning and shouting, "You were robbed!" knew it too. But that wasn't enough. Had it just been another random route, I might have moved on. But my goal, kind of a major goal for me, was to climb 14A by my 40th birthday. So I just couldn't accept that I could have done it. And I had until October 5th of that year, still a few months away. So after a summer of dedicated training, I decided to go back and finish the job. And on the first cool days of the fall, I reacquainted myself with the route, expecting a quick send. A couple of days in, though, the opposite was happening. The wheels were coming off. I had yet to comfortably repeat the hardest crux move. I could do it, making this big lateral move off of a small right-hand edge out to a juggy side pull, but my feet would cut every time, requiring energy that I knew I wouldn't have on red point. I didn't understand. I'd always been able to crush this move when coming off the dog, so as a clearly stronger climber, it should feel easier. But it just didn't. My 40th birthday came and went, and I just couldn't make it through that move again. I could barely do it off the dog, and as I slumped on the rope after another unsuccessful attempt, I asked myself the question, are you the same you? No, I absolutely was not. I had spent much of the summer training with that particular edge and move in mind, knowing that my ability to hold it would make all the difference. And now I could one-arm hang that edge. So had I overemphasized strength on that hold at the expense of good tension? Nope, wasn't that. I wasn't seeing that anywhere else on any of the other moves. My ability to use tension was fine, if not even better than before. And then hanging there, I realized that I was giving the same percentage of effort to that move as I always had. But I didn't need to. I was essentially, after climbing the 12C intro into the first V8 crux, into the short, steep 13A section, doing a one-arm pull-up on this edge and pulling my feet off of the holds. I tried it again, more relaxed, purposely letting my weight come down onto my feet, and they stayed put. And the following Sunday, 3 weeks past my deadline, I clipped the chains. So next time you think you've hit a plateau, ask yourself. Well, actually, first thing to do is ask yourself if it's actually a plateau. Some of you've been at one grade for 3 weeks and you think you're plateaued. Progression can take a long time, particularly as you near your upper limits and if you're only using grades as your gauge, but that's a whole other video. But after you've sorted all that out, ask yourself, are you the same you? Because your training, your tactics, your approach needs to be what works best for the current you, not the past you who made those decisions to begin with. Now, this video was loosely based around a chapter in my new book, Adapt. The link for that is right there in the description. Thanks for watching or listening. In the show notes, you'll find related links, videos, and episodes, as well as how you can subscribe to our monthly newsletter, The Current, where we connect the dots to help climbers learn, grow, and excel.